Hey everybody, welcome to the Caleb and Aria show on the Traditional Domestic Discipline Substack. I am Caleb and I have my illustrious co-host Aria with me. Aria, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. I burned my fingers earlier, so I've been kind of nursing that this morning.
You burned your fingers?
Yeah. I was
Hmm.
pouring some bacon grease into the jar that I keep my bacon grease in because, I am from the South, so of course we do that. And I accidentally tipped the jar just a little too far, and all of the hot
Oh
bacon
man.
grease went down my fingers. Yeah.
Were you near a faucet at least?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was in the kitchen, so I ran it under cold water, but man, it hurt for a long time.
Oh crap, that's gotta suck. When was this?
Uh, oh gosh, probably about 2.5 hours ago.
Oh, are you okay? Like, are you doing okay or?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's not a great situation, but I ran it under cold water, held it under cold water for a while. Now I got them wrapped up with some Neosporin, and so it'll be fine.
Are they all purple and stuff?
No, no, thank goodness it's not that bad, but one of the fingers is blistered up pretty bad, so
Oh crap, I'm sorry about that.
that's okay. I mean, my husband's gonna be like, "What is going on with you?" Because I just got healed from a burn on my arm from taking something out of the oven and being careless and like touching my arm to the side of the oven, which I'm like, this is ridiculous. I have been a home cook for like almost 20 years or over 20 years. I really should not be carelessly burning myself so much.
You know what I think it is? I think you're so excited about the new Caleb and Aria show that you can't concentrate on nothing else. You just can't focus on nothing else, Aria. That's what it is.
How's your week been going?
Um, okay, so I am really in the worst part of trying to remember how I told you last week that I'm getting trying to withdraw off the Atenolol, the beta blocker pill.
Uh-huh.
I'm in the worst part of it right now. So every time I stand up, my heart rate shoots to 130, 140,
Mm.
and stays there for a while. And that's to be expected. This is part of coming off of beta blockers, but for whatever reason, my situation is taking longer to resolve than usual. So I've always got like a really fast, hard heart rate going. And so this is withdrawal. I mean, this is just as bad as withdrawing from like, a street drug like cocaine or something. I mean, the withdrawal symptoms are kind of the same. And there's like a
Mm-hmm.
sick feeling. And so I should have never started taking beta blockers. I should have never started letting doctors prescribe them to me. But, I did. And I am where I am. But I have to get off this drug because I can't lose any more weight while I'm on this drug because it doesn't let your
Mm.
heart get past 120 beats per minute. So I have to get myself off of it. Now, here's the good news of all of this. My last year and a half of eating healthy has definitely paid off because no matter what happens when I stand up and start moving around, my resting heart rate remains the same. It's the exact same as it was when I started this taper. So, and that's a really good measure of what your health is what your resting heart rate is. You know what I mean? And I've got a really good resting heart rate that really hasn't changed. So if I'm standing, I might go up to 140 beats per minute, even 150, because of all the withdrawals and everything, and my body's getting used to having adrenaline again. But as soon as I sit down, like I go back to a normal heart rate. So at least I have that.
That's good.
Yeah. So it's just something I got to get through, But so it's been a tough week for me. I wish I could say something different, but there are some positives coming from it. And as soon as I get off this drug, I will be, a much happier person. Now, got a question for you, Aria.
Yes.
We know you burned your fingers. Did you get your butt burned as well?
Oh no.
No, it's been a good week for you. You know,
Yeah.
if I was your husband, I would actually forfeit a punishment when something like this happens. Because when you burn your fingers like that, I mean, I don't know. To me, that's punishment enough. So, like, if I were going to punish you, like, let's say you had a spanking coming, if you burned your fingers that day, I'd be like, baby, karma's already got you. Don't worry about this till next time. You know what I mean?
We'll
Because
say I think he would at least postpone. I don't know if he would completely cancel a punishment, but he would at least postpone.
I mean, of course, it depends on the situation. But if it's something like where you were just getting a normal spanking, I guess not a real hard one, I would just be like, all right, baby, you burned your fingers. That's your punishment for today. Go to bed early tonight or something, and that'll be your punishment. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
but you know,
Well, I mean,
go ahead.
today is a scheduled maintenance. And on Thursdays, we always give ourselves the option of putting it off till Friday. So we probably will, just because today I can already, like, he has a long day, and I definitely am not going to be functioning at 100% just because of everything that's happened this morning. So we will most likely put off that maintenance spanking till tomorrow.
Not to be too personal, but is your maintenance done over the knee usually?
Yes.
Okay, you might want to put it off for a couple more days because if your fingers are like still like throbbing and whatchamacallit, inflamed, your hands are going to be touching the floor, and you're not going to like that feeling of your hands touching the floor if your fingers are still in bad shape.
Because of the lounger that we have, my hands don't necessarily have to touch the floor
Okay.
because it's wider.
Okay. Well, I'm just kind of letting you know there could be some issues with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, no, it's this is part of the domestic discipline lifestyle. Things happen. Just you know, we are normal people. People don't realize we live normal lives and normal things happen to us, just like anybody else. I really think most people outside the DD community who have heard of us and know of us but don't know about us, I really think that they sit there and they think we just think about DD all day long and that's all we do, and our jobs are DD and our home life is all spanking, and you know what I'm saying? It's like, no, we cook, we clean, we have hobbies, we watch sports. We're people. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But just speaking of DD, we usually talk about DD on this podcast, and we are going to today, but we're going to reverse that a little bit. Isn't that right, Aria?
That's right.
Because today we are going to talk about a type of domestic discipline that you could say is more feminist friendly. Now,
In some ways.
yes. Now, normal domestic discipline is where the man leads and the man has the option of spanking his woman if she breaks his rules. But in female-led domestic discipline, which is what we're talking about today, everything's the opposite. It's the woman who makes rules for the man and the woman who punishes the man when he breaks rules. And so we're just going to have a lot of fun with it because female-led domestic discipline is utterly ridiculous. And anybody listening to this podcast today is going to have a ton of laughs. Now, do you know anything about female-led domestic discipline? Did you do any research this week or anything like that?
Yeah, so I looked into, I've obviously heard about it before, but I looked into a few different resources, and it's interesting because, I mean, 99% of the resources out there for female-led domestic discipline is more fantasy fetish,
Yeah.
like creative writing projects. And so it's really hard to find people that legitimately use female-led domestic discipline as just a lifestyle choice.
Yeah, it's very hard to find stuff that isn't like purely of a sexual basis when it comes to that. And that's a problem all across DD, but especially a problem with female-led DD. But I can't even begin to wrap my mind around like the mindset. Now, as you know, Aria, there's domestic discipline fiction on Amazon, right?
Mhm.
And I decided to read a couple of the little short books that are female-led domestic discipline on Amazon. And I don't want to say I'm sorry I did, but man, they are so ridiculous. There's this one book where I forget what the guy did, but the guy did something, and the woman is spanking him, right? And
Mhm.
one line that came from this book was after she spanked him, he felt horrible, but somehow he felt safe and protected by her. And that line really, yeah,
I'm
yes,
sorry. I don't mean to laugh, but that's so much of a role reversal because even if you want to have a female-led relationship, men are just physically stronger than women.
yes.
There's no way a woman would be able to protect a man unless he legitimately had some physical disability.
And she's a third degree black belt or something. I don't, and even then, I mean, but like, what I'm thinking about is how is it even possible to even feel that? How is it possible for a man to even feel that feeling of quote unquote being protected by a woman? That's just ridiculous. Like
Yeah, and I
I
think that it's so much in the nature of women to want their man to be stronger than them. I watch a YouTube I watch a YouTube channel of a bodybuilder. And so she is the type of woman that, she's very muscular, obviously, and even she has said that when she is dating someone, she wants someone that's into fitness. She wants someone who is physically stronger than her
yep.
because she's still a woman.
Yep. And I mean, if you look at these female WWE wrestlers, who are they dating? They're not dating average guys.
No,
They're dating other wrestlers who are like three times as strong as they are. You know,
because at the end of the day, they still want a man who's able to protect them. They still want to feel feminine.
yep. They want to feel the feeling of feeling protected is it's a must for a woman. If a woman doesn't feel protected by you, you have no chance with her. Like
Mhm.
if she feels she has to protect you, you know, I can't see her putting you anywhere except the friend zone. You know what I'm saying? Because
Oh,
like
for sure.
because she might care about you as a friend, but she's kind of going to have you on the same level as like mentally slow people. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
But here's something else that's really kind of sad and hilarious at the same time, but still kind of sad. I understand how guys get into this trap where they're looking for female-led domestic discipline because I understand the power of the internet to lure you into any rabbit hole that you happen to be going down at the time.
Sure.
So a guy might look at a couple of femdom pictures and think, okay, this is sexy. But then as he researches more, he finds this whole world of quote unquote female-led relationships, and he starts to fantasize about it in his mind to the point where he needs more and more content, and he's got himself convinced that that's what he really wants.
Well,
Um,
and I mean, different people like different types of stimulation for, the purposes of pleasure, and that's fine and good.
yeah,
But we need to, and this is just a domestic discipline problem across the board. We need to start separating sexual play, sexual fantasy, what's done for the mutual pleasure and benefit of both people, and separate that from a discipline dynamic.
yeah, that is a huge issue with the domestic discipline community. But part of that is because like the spanking fetishists come in and try to ruin everything whenever you try to set up a real domestic discipline site. And you and I have talked about that. Um,
Hmm.
but no, you're absolutely right. But I'm gonna stay on my point here. I was leading somewhere here. I lost my train of thought here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I loved what you just said. But okay, so I've gone undercover, right? Pretending to be a guy looking for a female-led domestic discipline relationship, right?
Mhm.
And I didn't even go on like femdom sites or nothing. I've just gone on like normal sites or whatever, right? And on these sites and on these apps where guys are looking, and this is going to help make the point that you just made, where guys are looking for this so-called female-led femdom domestic discipline relationship. Now, you know, if you go on a dating app, there's always more guys on there than girls, right?
Oh, of
I
course.
mean, there might
Yeah.
be 10 guys for every girl. That's par for the course. But in this particular niche, this femdom domestic discipline niche, I would say there's at least 200 or 300 guys for every woman on the site. I mean, you have to go through like 3 or 4 pages of profiles to even find a woman, a singular woman on the whole site, right?
Mhm.
There's probably one woman for every 2 or 300 guys, right? So you can tell that women just don't want this kind of relationship. And it gets even worse than that because of the real women who are on these sites, of the real women who are on these sites, 90 to 95% of them are professional dominatrixes who are going on these sites to find clients and make money.
Right.
They're not looking for a real female-led relationship. Okay, so now when you get past all that and you finally find a girl that really does want this female-led relationship, she's going to be some like boozed out, burnt out 55-year-old girl who's had like 7 divorces and just hates men. So women don't want this. Women do not want this kind of relationship at all. And you know, you see guys on these sites complaining about this. I wish there was more info about. You see a lot of guys in these comment sections on these blogs saying, "I wish there were more women talking about this. I wish there were more women on the dating sites and so on and so forth." But there's not, and there's never going to be because women aren't into that.
Mhm.
Women are either not into domestic discipline at all, or if they are, they want the guy to lead it. Um, but it is hilarious. I mean, it is kind of like I feel bad for the guys because I think a lot of the guys are just basically lonely and maybe they're not very good with girls in real life. So they see looking for a female led relationship as a sort of way out of their loneliness, or at least a potential way out of their loneliness.
Mhm.
But man, how do you? I don't even know how a man can get himself into that mindset. Can you figure out how a woman can get herself into a mindset like that? I mean, what do you have to say about that?
To be like dominant over a man?
Yeah, where can you even think about like reversing roles with your husband and you're the one punishing him?
Oh gosh. I joke with him sometimes and he like pats me on the head and it's like, you're so cute. Because it's so outside of what's comfortable for us. But no, never seriously thinking about that because, you know, we have set our relationship up with such traditional gender roles that I'm like, how can I assume the role of authority over him when that is not at all my position as a woman? He has the authority in our home, he has the authority over our relationship. So even if he, because I read a little, like I read a free chapter of an Amazon book because I wasn't interested in buying it,
Yeah.
um, where the woman was basically like, my husband wants me to, you know, punish him, and my husband wants me to set boundaries for him and hold him accountable. And, you know, I view him as the leader of our home. So in order to submit to him, I need to do that because that's what he's asked me to do. And that seems like such a twisted way that seems like such mental gymnastics to get
It
to that
is.
point.
It absolutely is. Yeah.
Because I'm like, yes, your husband's telling you that this is what he wants you to do, so you should honor that. However, he has no authority if he's giving it to you. Authority is a tangible resource, and you have to either take it or give it. And if you're saying my husband is the authority because he has that God-given role of being the head of the household, but he's then taking that authority and giving it to his wife, well, now he is actually, he is taking what God has given him and giving it away. He's being frivolous with that authority, and he is not fulfilling his duties as the head of the household.
Well, you're absolutely right. And, even like the most ardent, I don't need no man feminists don't want a relationship like this.
No.
Even they will tell you, hey, I'm nobody's mom. You know what I mean? So,
right. They really want, I would say that the hardcore feminists, they want a true egalitarian relationship, which is no relationship at all. That's two individuals living simultaneously together.
Right.
But that's that's as far.
Aria, you're breaking up. You're breaking up. But I got, and I'm sorry to my listeners for pausing and now I'm pausing, but something happened. I think on my end, I think the Wi-Fi went out for just a split second there.
Okay.
But as far, the last words I heard you for were as far.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say that's as far as even the most staunch feminists will take it. They don't want authority over their partner.
No, they don't. And so, to the guys listening to this, if you have some fantasy about like a woman leading you in the relationship, get past that fantasy. Because it's just not part of your biology. You're trying to go against your biology, which is going to create all kinds of problems. But B, your chances of finding a woman to even try a relationship like this with you are next to nothing. And if you do find a woman to try this kind of relationship with you, she's going to get real sick of you real quick. I mean, every woman I've ever talked to who has taken any kind of lead in their relationships, they all say the same thing, that their relationship was exhausting. They don't want to lead. They don't want to be making decisions for them. They don't even want to be making decisions for him. They want him to take charge. Even the people in the non-DD world, this is what most women will tell you. And it's absolutely exhausting and overwhelming for them to be in charge of you and be in charge of the relationship. So your chances of finding a woman to even try this with you are basically 1 in a million. Maybe not that bad, but pretty close. But if you do find a woman, it's not going to work out very well for you. Now you don't have to be in a GD relationship, but this feminine women leading the relationship stuff, it never works. The only relationships where it works is where it's fantasy role play and both people know it's fantasy.
Right. There's like a beginning and an end.
Right. It's strictly bedroom stuff. And that's, and if you want to do that, listen, I don't knock you. I really couldn't, I don't think, even just as bedroom stuff. But I think if somebody wants to do the femdom thing in the bedroom as a way of getting excited, that's okay. But if you're going to have
for sure,
and especially a domestic discipline relationship, a guy has to lead. A guy has to lead. Now, I started out saying that this is going to be a fun episode where we kind of make fun of the guys, but I do feel bad for the guys. Like I said, I think most of them are just lonely, or most of them have maybe gotten out of bad relationships in the past and they're looking to try something new, and this pops up on the internet when they're doing internet searches about dating, and so they go down this rabbit hole. Have you ever met anybody in life that was maybe not a female-led domestic discipline, but Have you ever met people who you can tell the woman runs the household? Because I have, and it's usually not pretty.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't know what their interpersonal lives looked like, but I have definitely met couples where it is very obvious that the man has no authority in his home.
Yeah, like a man will, I've seen it where a man will speak up to say something to like his friends, and his woman will literally put her finger up to his mouth to hush his lips and stuff. Um, and always like correcting his posture and things like that nature, things like that a mom would do to a 5-year-old. I've seen plenty of relationships like that, and the man is never happy, and the woman is never happy, like
Right.
we just said. Um, but I've seen that, and we've all like, I don't know if you ever used to hang out in bars and clubs. I did, I have, and everybody knows that guy who has the girlfriend that just yells at him constantly, whether they're in public, private, wherever it is. She's always got something to yell at him about, and again, these neither couple is happy, and I'm sure our listeners know a lot of couples like that, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. But I wanted to have some fun with this episode today because, I kind of wanted to sort of lighten up the mood. Female-led domestic discipline is ridiculous. It is kind of, like I said, I feel bad for the guys, but it is something to kind of laugh at the same time. I feel protected by my woman. Sure you do, buddy. You know, but again, I think too, like that any guy who's seeking out a female-led domestic discipline relationship has got to have some sort of psychological issues going on too. Um,
Yeah, whether that's from trauma or, you know, previously bad experiences or whatever it is. It's definitely going against the natural order of where you should be.
right. So you're going to try a female-led domestic discipline relationship with your husband now, right?
Oh, yeah, because he would really be on board with that. Not at all.
You're going to reverse roles. So, female-led domestic discipline doesn't work, but you know what does work? Real domestic discipline. And we have a little bit of a fun segment for you guys today to kind of end the show, and that's I told Aria before we started the show that we should do a little conversation about celebrities who we think might potentially, possibly either be in a domestic discipline relationship or those who have the mindset to be open to one. And so this is just going to be a fun little rabbit hole that we go down. And Ariel, like I told you off camera here, you know who I suspect the most of potentially being open to a domestic discipline relationship would be Candace Cameron. You know who that is?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the former Full House girl.
Yep.
And she goes on a lot of preaching circuits now because she's a committed Christian and stuff like that. And she was on The View. She is always talking about how happy she is to be a submissive wife and how being a submissive wife has made her marriage so happy. I actually read one of her books once because during my college internship, I was trying to get an interview with her, and so I did some reading up. I think her book was something like "Stay Classy" or "How to Keep It Classy" or something like that. But she talked about the benefits of being a submissive wife, and she bangs that drum pretty hard. So
Yes, I've seen that.
So it would not surprise me one bit if Candace Cameron were in a domestic discipline relationship behind the scenes. And if she's not, I feel like she might be the type who might be open to it if she ever met somebody who lives that lifestyle. Now, of course, this is just fun conversation because if Candace Cameron is into it and if she does live a domestic discipline lifestyle, she's never going to admit it publicly. She's got too much to lose.
Right.
So this is just sort of fun talking here. But I feel like she could be one of those who could be open to it. And a lot of people in the domestic discipline community like her too. So she has a lot of fans among us. So Candace, if you're listening to this, the DD community supports you. But
Here's a fun one.
okay,
You know who just popped into my head that might be in a female-led domestic discipline relationship?
like 90% of Hollywood.
I was gonna say the one that popped into my head that's kind of been a little bit in the front of the media lately is Harry and Meghan.
Oh, I could see that. I could see that. I could see them having like a femdom relationship that carried over into a real female-led relationship. I could see that for sure. Because they kind of preach that stuff over in England anyway, don't they?
Um, well, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. I know that I have some followers on my Instagram account that are from the UK that have traditional domestic discipline relationships with, the husband leading. So I'm not sure what the overall consensus of their culture is.
Hey, you know who else just came to my mind? The Duck Dynasty daughter. What's her name?
Oh, is it Sydney
It's like
Watson?
Sydney or Sadie or something.
Sadie.
Yeah.
Sadie, I think it is. Oh, Sydney Watson is a political commentator on YouTube.
Oh, I know her.
Sorry.
No, I
I
like
was
Sydney
like,
Watson too.
I was about to say her name is in the forefront because she just did a feminist versus anti-feminist Vice conversation, and there's been a lot going on about that too.
Well, do you watch The Quartering at all?
I've come across it a few times. I'm not a regular viewer.
Well, she's on The Quartering every Thursday night now.
Mm.
So her and Jeremy over there go back and forth. I used to watch her a lot she used to be on a show called You Are Here with a guy named Elijah Schaefer. But Elijah was kind of I'm just going to say Elijah was kind of a dick and kind of treated her like crap. So Sydney walked off the show one day, basically, is what happened. So
Oh, okay.
that show ended like a year ago. That was on the Blaze. You know Glenn Beck's the Blaze entertainment company that he owns. But she's on The Quartering now. Yeah, I could see Sydney herself being open to it too, though. You know what I mean?
I could see that. She's pretty,
And
you
like,
know, she can hold her own politically and in the public, but I could see interpersonal relationships, her definitely like leaning into that submissive role. Because I mean, she talks about that a lot too.
or like Lauren Southern. Do you know who that is?
I do not.
Oh, she's like the most famous young female political YouTuber out there on the conservative side.
I have to admit, I don't follow politics a whole lot. I let my husband kind of take care of that for our family.
But I was talking about Sadie Robertson.
Yes, yeah, that was the name that I was trying to come up with.
Yeah, I feel like it would not surprise me one bit if she came up with. Does anybody else come to your mind as far as like a real DD or?
Mm. Well, like I was telling you, I watch YouTube as my main form of entertainment, so I don't know a whole lot of celebrities by name, and I definitely don't know them by their like actual lives. Um, so I am drawing a complete blank.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're kind of from the same generation a little bit, so we know the people from our generation. I could see Lady Gaga in one, but Lady Gaga would probably be in a female-led one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Or what's her name? That was going to marry Justin Bieber. Selena Gomez. I bet you she wouldn't surprise me at all either.
I could see that.
Or even the real Selena. Do you remember the real Selena?
I do remember her. She was just a little bit before my time, but my older sister really liked her.
Oh, her story is so intriguing, guys. If you ever to my listeners, if you don't know who Selena is, it's the Selena. Her real name was Selena Quintanilla. But she just went by Selena. And if you guys have ever heard
There's a decent movie.
yeah, Jennifer Lopez is in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they made a movie about her life. She was killed in a hotel room by one of her fans. Selena was like this big Tejano music star that was kind of crossing over into regular pop. Um, but the president of her fan club and her got into a dispute, and the president of this fan club had like this obsession with her. And so when Selena fired her, um, this fan murdered her. And it's a whole big thing. There's all kinds of really good documentaries and stuff on YouTube that you can watch about it, and interviews with the family members. There's a Selena museum down there in Texas. Did you know that?
I had no idea. I wonder what city.
Corpus Christi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's where she's from.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And they have like her car is in there, like the last car that she owned before she died, like her Porsche.
Mm.
Her car is there, and a bunch of her records and a bunch of the clothes that she used to wear on stage and whatever. Um, that's a really sad story. She was very, very talented and did not deserve to die. And it's just a really sad story. But it's going to be 28 years now that she's dead this coming March.
Wow.
Only 23 years old. She was probably going to be one of the biggest female stars in the world, and just cut short by an obsessed fan. But back to the main point, I could have seen her being in a Dee Dee relationship, and she probably wasn't, but she's the type where I could see it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But I don't know. That's all I got for today. I don't want to go as long as we usually do because, like I said, I'm not feeling that great.
Yeah, totally understandable.
Um, do you have anything to add? Do you have anything coming up this week that you're going to be adding to our Substack, or what are your plans for the week?
So my plans are to get another audio episode of the Aria Answers segment that I was doing. I think I'm going to do one episode every other week. So I'm going to be getting that put up. And yeah, I don't know. I wrote an article last week, and that was a really personal article for me to write, and I really enjoyed writing it. And I think that it was so good because it was just something that came so naturally. So definitely as things come up like that, I will write about them. They'll go up on there. So
Yeah, no, it was a very good article. Um, and it was long, but it was worth every word. I mean, the way you laid stuff out, guys, if you haven't read this article, just go ahead and read it. I'm drawing a blank on the title right now.
I think I titled it "How Maintenance Maintains Our Relationship."
Right. And you've got an interview coming up with a girl who's kind of getting started in the DD world, right?
Yes, yes. I'm still trying to connect with her. She wasn't feeling well, so we needed to reschedule. So as soon as that gets scheduled, I'll have that up as well.
So lots of good content. And I've got some of my own stuff coming up. Tomorrow I'm going to be making an audio called My Feminist Dad. And I'm going to be getting into some personal stuff there, and as far as like my upbringing and how I was kind of raised to have a feminist mindset, and how my dad was a piece of garbage, more or less. And it's a whole thing, but it's part of my journey to that has led me to become who I am today. So I think it fits in with the traditional domestic discipline website very, very well. But I'm just going to be saying some stuff on there that, I think a lot of the most ardent pro-traditional relationship people out there are people who were raised feminist or people who were once feminist.
That would make sense, especially for right now, because I think if you were born, 1975 or later, you've grown up in a society that is feminist.
Yeah.
And you have grown up probably with your primary influences and your parents, your churches, your schools, your friends, all giving you this like feminist perspective in one way or another.
Yep.
And so, yeah, that makes sense that a lot of people are coming out of feminist influences and rediscovering um, this lifestyle and rediscovering their desire to have more of a traditional lifestyle. And I think sometimes the pendulum swings too far,
Yeah.
and those people end up reinforcing the feminist perspective. And so there's a whole lot that you have to work through.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, I was going to do something else, but why don't we make our episode next week about the Manosphere and how while there's positive things going on about in the Manosphere, they've taken things too far.
Mm-hmm.
And would you like to do an episode about that?
Yeah, I think that might be good.
Yeah, I think we'll do that because we kind of did a lighthearted one this week, so we'll do something serious next week.
Mm-hmm.
But I just lost my train of thought again. What was I going to say?
Well, you were talking about what you were coming up with.
Okay, so part of the reason the pendulum swings too far back in this situation is because I think that feminism is one of those things that once a man wakes up from it, he really wakes up.
Mm-hmm.
And then once he realizes the truth, it's like a good thing, but then a whole bunch of anger sets in along with the truth realizations. So he kind of starts looking for reasons to
put women in their place.
Yes. Yes.
Even when he doesn't necessarily have the authority to do that.
Yes, or just reasons to look down on women in general.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the things that bugs me about the Manosphere is they have so much good stuff as far as teaching men self-confidence and self-respect and everything like that. But they have a bunch of videos dedicated to just trashing women. Like, there's a bunch of women who are like over 35 that will sometimes come on YouTube and be really sad and desperate and lonely because they are over 35 and they can't find a man to marry them or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And these Manosphere leaders will make response videos to them degrading them. Well, I guess you should have kept your legs closed when you were younger. And then people in the comments will just be straight up laughing at this woman who's like facing the prospect of the rest of her life alone, or she's feeling like that anyway. And now she's getting attacked by a bunch of random so-called real men on the internet. And so that's the thing about the Manosphere I don't like. I also don't like this whole thing about body count anyway. Like, I don't feel like a woman's body count matters that much to me unless she was sleeping with other people's boyfriends. I think if you're that hung up on body count as a man, you're just pretty much insecure.
Well, and I think to go off on body count for a minute, as someone who had sexual partners before her husband,
Yeah.
I find that, you know, there's this thing of like, you know, oh, you're worthless as a woman if you have had sex before your marriage. And then there's like, oh, if you have a high body count, then you're worthless. Well, what is high?
Yeah.
What is high? Because, like, for myself, I had 4 previous sexual partners before my husband. 3 of them could have gone to jail for what they did to me. So is that my fault? And should I be counted as worthless as a traditional wife because I was taken advantage of?
Wow. I didn't expect this to take this turn.
Sorry. I get so upset with the body count thing because I'm like, are you telling me that my life means nothing and my husband is a horrible excuse for a man because he knew? Like, I told him before we got married.
Well, but we should probably do an episode on that one day, like if you ever feel like talking about that.
Oh, sure.
But I don't. If it's an SA situation, I don't want to push you into that. But I feel like that's its own episode.
Oh, for sure. And I have no problem talking about it. It's not something that I think would be particularly triggering for anyone. It wasn't a violent situation, but it was just a situation that I was way too young and they were way too old.
Okay.
To be doing what we were doing.
So still creepo stuff.
Yeah,
Um, but let me bring it back to, and I'm not trying to disregard your situation. I just think that it
oh
deserves its
sure,
own episode.
oh
Um,
for sure, I didn't mean to derail.
no, yeah, I totally empathize with what happened to you. But like I said, we'll do a whole episode about that. But I want to bring it back to my point, and I'm losing my train of thought again. Okay. So back to like just basic body count. Let's assume that you were single, right? And
Hmm.
that I met you. And let's say your entire body count from your past was wasn't creep stuff, right? It was just like, you know, you were in college, you were having your fun, you slept with a bunch of like sexy guys, right?
Sure.
I can't think of a reason why I would look down on you for that. Like, because the thing is, let's say you're like everything else about your character is great. Like you and I are compatible. We get along great. You're a good Christian woman. You help the homeless. You're good to people. You're true to your friends. How stupid is it for me to just degrade you because you had your sexual fun in college, especially when I had my sexual fun in college? You know what I mean? So
For
I
sure.
can't even look down on you because I did the same thing and I'm looking down on you for that. But even beyond that, it says nothing about your personality. It just means you like sex too. And I and I
Well, and
mean
I,
I know that in like Christian circles you're not supposed to have sex before marriage, but all I'm saying that's a different argument. All I'm saying is that how much sex you've had in your past is not indicative of your character as a person. And so when I see
um,
these manosphere idiots putting women down who have a quote unquote high body count, and that's the only reason they're putting them down. They're not putting them down because they're loud mouths or causing trouble or nothing. They're just putting them down just off a body count alone. I'm thinking you guys are a bunch of insecure. You guys are the most beta dudes out there claiming to be alpha. You're the most insecure idiots out there. Um, but anyway, I'm sorry, I'm going off on a rant, but go ahead.
oh no, you're fine. I was just gonna say, like, for sure, I definitely think that, um, in my own situation, my husband was a virgin when we met. And so I, out of fairness for him, told him my entire sexual history so that he could decide if that was something he was willing to overlook. And that's the only thing that I would say that I would expect someone moving into a serious relationship to do. It's like, look, here is my body count. Here is what I have done. Here were the situations. And full disclosure, if you have any type of lasting ramifications from that, if you have an STD that will lay dormant in your body forever, even if it's treated, or I just think like you owe it to your future partner to give them that full disclosure. But beyond that, it shouldn't be something that is looked at as like degrading your moral character.
No, you are absolutely right, and I know a lot of the tradsters on here that might listen to this episode are going to be mad, but so what? I can't stand the tradsters who think like that anyway. There's plenty of wonderful people in the trad community. Don't get me wrong, but but let's say that having a high body count was, you know, something bad, and of course, like a lot of Christians believe that sex before marriage is a sin. Even if that's the case, a lifestyle like the domestic discipline lifestyle can fix anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you, if you get a girl into a domestic discipline lifestyle and you're doing it right, she's not going to be want to be with too many other guys when she's with you. You know?
Well, and I've always heard like, oh, if you've had sexual partners in the past, you're always comparing your husband to your past. That has never happened to me. Never, not even once.
And that's the stupidest argument that people make. You know what I say to people who say that? You know, as far as if a woman's had a lot of sexual partners, you're going to be compared to other guys. I say, listen, all women come with some degree of crazy. All women come to some degree of headaches. The headaches that you get from a woman with a high body count aren't any worse than the ones you get with a low body count. They're just different.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't think the virgin woman is comparing you to other guys every once in a while, is you don't think she's thinking in her mind, I wonder what could have happened if I went with this guy instead of, you, you're crazy. That's just not even a real argument.
Mm-hmm.
Is a woman who has a high body count going to compare you to other guys? She absolutely is. But so is any other woman. So, it's just a stupid argument.
I've never compared my husband sexually with other guys. Now, I may look at other guys and say, oh, he's physically attractive.
Right.
But I never fantasize sexually. I never compare my husband sexually to past partners. I've never compared my husband sexually to a fantasy. I've never done that because I am all in with my husband right now. You know what I mean? That's just not something that I allow my mind to go to. And so that seems like such a insecure line of thinking for these guys to be like, oh, if you're with a woman who's had other guys, she's going to be comparing you. It's like, are you afraid you won't measure up?
See, and that's why I say these guys are insecure. They're claiming to be these alpha dudes and teaching these dudes masculinity, but they're insecure as hell. The whole argument comes from insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm
now,
agreeing with you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And now, as a Christian, if I could go back and tell myself how my life was going to end up, would I have, number one, allowed myself to get into those situations, made certain choices that put me in those situations? No, absolutely not. I would skip that part. And as a Christian, am I going to tell other young women, hey, it's ideal to wait until marriage? Absolutely. But am I going to say, hey, if you've gotten yourself into a situation, you're worthless? Absolutely not. You're not worthless. Repent, change your behavior, and find yourself a good guy.
Yeah, and even if you're not a Christian, because I know there's a lot of non-Christians listening to us too.
Oh, sure.
Ladies, your body count doesn't mean a thing to your character. Any guy who is that hung up on your body count isn't the kind of guy you want to be with anyway, because a guy who will judge you on that will find some other reason to judge you too. And he'll find other reasons to judge other people. So he's just going to be an absolute asshole to be around anyway. You want somebody who judges you for how compatible you are with them, who judges you by what they've observed of your personal character. And we talked about this before. Things like, loyalty to your friends and things of that nature. Do you help the homeless? Just things that show that you're a good person and that you're compatible with them. That's what you want to do. Go ahead.
I would say that if you want to find a good guy, even if you have a high body count, don't be actively promiscuous when you decide that you want a more serious relationship. That would be my only advice. Leave the past in the past. If you're looking for a more serious relationship and you want a quality guy, then don't sleep your way to him. Change your behavior, start changing, your qualities and develop those better qualities so that a good guy sees you as a benefit to his life.
No, that can be good advice, absolutely. But still, you don't want a guy who's going to judge you off your past body count anyway, if that's all he's judging you for.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I agree with you on that standpoint. I'm just saying, hey, don't be sleeping with 4 different guys every weekend and be like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's if you're looking to develop a serious relationship, maybe step back, evaluate your own behavior, and do things that make you an asset and a benefit to a more potentially serious relationship.
Absolutely. Wow, we really got into some stuff I didn't expect to get into today.
I guess we did.
You're a deep woman, Ari. You're a deep woman, and man, you took this somewhere where, this episode was already pretty good, but you made it doubly as good.
Well, I guess you just brought up some subjects that I feel pretty passionately about, and I didn't realize.
Yeah, we should probably, like I said, we're going to do an episode. We're going to get all into this about when we talk about the Manosphere next week.
Oh, for sure.
Now, if the Manosphere was all negative, it wouldn't piss me off as much. But what pisses me off is that they have so much positive advice, but they put this degrading shit against women in there.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think and we'll get more into this, but I think one of the most harmful aspects of the Manosphere is it's really 12 and 13-year-old boys are really latching onto it.
Yeah.
And 12 and 13-year-old boys are already inclined to be assholes. And then they have these older guys telling them and reaffirming that asshole-ish behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just, yeah.
And I want to thank you for opening my eyes to Andrew Tate. You know, I talked, for our listeners, I talked to Aria 2 weeks ago, telling her that I really kind of respected Andrew Tate, right? Because I've seen a lot of his clips, and he does say a lot of good stuff. But Ari, you opened my eyes to the kind of man he really is. Yeah, he degrades women constantly, and he's one of those that judges women off body count, as well as a million other things. And he openly says that he can go out and party all he wants, but his woman better be staying at home and reading the Bible and crap. And he's a piece of shit, but he's a dangerous piece of shit because he's got a lot of good advice.
I was about to say, like, I would say 20 to 30% of what he says is so solid.
Yep.
But then on the other side of the pendulum, 20 to 30% of what he says is garbage, and then the rest of it is pretty neutral. And yeah, you're right. That's really dangerous because he sucks people in with that good stuff, and then they're like, "Well, he said this, and I trust him over here, so he might as well be right over here too."
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, we're going to end the show, and of course, Aria, I want you to stay on with me for a minute or two afterwards.
Of course.
But we're going to end the show right here, and we already did all our plugs, so I don't want to go back over that. But be sure to check out Ari's upcoming stuff, and I'll be doing my Feminist Dad. That's going to be dropping tomorrow on the Substack, and we'll talk to you guys soon, and we hope you enjoyed this episode.